Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain I find, thank you, love you. This movie tells the story of a man desperate to go to the United States to win back his Japanese girlfriend. He then hires a tutor to teach him the English language, but things don't go according to plan. Will an unexpected love actually blossom between them? Let's find out in I find, thank you, love you.
I find thank you, love you.
I find, thank you, love you begins by showing a beautiful woman named Hannah who is teaching English to children in a fun way. Hannah was liked by all her students because she was very beautiful and kind. Hannah apparently doesn't have a boyfriend yet despite having a beautiful face and physique. One day, Hannah was visited by her friend, a woman named Kaya, who wanted to ask her for help. Kaya intends to return to the United States and end her relationship with her boyfriend. Kaya turned out to be a bit difficult to communicate in Thai because she was not fluent in Thai. On the other hand, her boyfriend doesn't speak English at all, so there's often miscommunication between the two of them. Therefore, Kaya asked Hannah to help her tell her boyfriend that she wanted to end their relationship. At first, Hannah refused, but after Kaya bribed her with an expensive bag, she finally agreed to her friend's request. After that, Kaya contacted her boyfriend to meet with Hannah to translate Kaya's wishes into Thai language. Hannah then meets Jim, Kaya's boyfriend who works as a technician at a coffee shop where she tries to translate Kaya's recorded voice into Thai and tells Jim. However, after listening to Kaya's voice recording and Hannah's translation, Jim was instantly angry and thought Hannah was a liar because he thought Kaya couldn't end their relationship. Jim then left Hannah, who was still stunned to see Jim who was so angry with her, even though she was just trying to help her friend. That night, after locking her course in a shopping center, Hannah found that her banner had been tampered with by someone. Hannah, who was scared because the atmosphere there was very quiet and dark, then rushed to the parking area to go home. However, upon arrival, Hannah is chased by someone on a motorbike. She immediately ran scared, but the person managed to catch up and block her. That person was none other than Jim, who forced her to teach him English so that he could follow Kaya to the United States and reconnect with the woman he loves. After giving some money as course fees, Jim left Hannah. Long story short, Jim started his course with Hannah at a coffee shop. Because Jim never studied English at all, Hannah then taught Jim starting from interpreting vocabulary that is often used in everyday life and also basic conversation. Jim intended to take Hannah home when it was finished, but Hannah refused because Jim's words were considered rude. The next day, while Hannah is teaching a business class, one of her students, a man named Phil, openly shows that he likes Hannah. Seeing Phil's increasing English and public speaking skills, Hannah immediately took aback and told her friends that she liked Phil. In the evening, Hannah returns to teach Jim at a coffee shop. They then get involved in a minor incident with a group of delinquent students who secretly take inappropriate photos of Hannah. Jim then defended Hannah and taught the bad boy a lesson not to repeat his actions. One day, Hannah met Jim, who was buying an English book. Not long after, some foreign tourists approached them and asked Jim about the address in English. Jim, who felt confused, then told them to ask someone else and immediately rushed away. Later that evening, Hannah receives a text message from Phil asking her to a party next week. Hannah, who really liked Phil, immediately felt happy and accepted the man's invitation. On the other hand, Jim receives a gift from Kaya, which is the ring he gave her. The return of the ring indicates that Kaya really wants to end her love affair with Jim. The next day, Jim gave the ring to Hannah and asked her to return it to Kaya. After telling her friend this, Kaya scolded Hannah because she should have helped her end her relationship with Jim, not mend her relationship with him. Hannah then went awry because she also felt bad for Jim on the one hand. With a heavy heart, Hannah decided to stop teaching English to Jim and returned the course fees he had paid. Jim immediately felt disappointed and hopeless. Before leaving, he approached Hannah in the parking area, where he then threw the money into Hannah's windshield. When Hannah was about to pick it up, it turned out that there was also a voice recorder belonging to Jim and also an English storybook. After Hannah listened to Jim's voice recording, she realized that Jim really wanted to learn English to follow Kaya to the United States and improve their relationship. Hannah then felt very sorry for Jim. The following night, Hannah attends a party at the invitation of Phil earlier. The party was held at Phil's house, who turned out to be a rich man. The two then spend time together, and Phil shows Hannah his luxury car collection. Hannah looked very happy with Phil. The following day, Hannah felt sorry for Jim and decided to help him by teaching him English. Regarding how Jim and Kaya's relationship will continue, Hannah doesn't want to get too involved. Hannah then goes to Jim's workplace and tells him what she's coming for. There, Hannah meets Jim's co-workers, who also don't speak English, just like Jim. Hannah then taught them some basic conversation and vocabulary in English and helped them conduct job interviews so they wouldn't be nervous during a real job interview. After that, they all had dinner together while doing a guessing game in English. Everyone looked happy, especially Hannah, who had never been so excited when she played a game. Since then, Hannah and Jim have become closer and their English skills have improved tremendously. One day, Hannah was strolling with Phil on a pier where her heels were damaged by getting caught in a gap in the wood. Instead of helping, Phil rambles on about his well-to-do life and his wealthy family. Hannah immediately felt ill, especially when Phil unpleasantly proposed to her. Since then, Hannah tried to avoid Phil, who seemed to force his desire to marry Hannah. In fact, he also gave many gifts to Hannah, which made Hannah even more ill-feel and reluctant to him. When Phil invites Hannah to the party next week, Hannah makes all sorts of excuses for turning him down. Hannah, who was annoyed with Phil, then vented her frustration on Jim while they were practicing boxing, where Hannah hit Jim so hard that he seemed to stagger. When Hannah was teaching Jim, Phil saw that he had just arrived and was about to head to Hannah's course. Phil brought a bunch of balloons and gifts for Hannah and wanted to propose to her again. But Hannah felt that Phil's actions had gone too far. She then tried to tell Phil that she didn't really love him, but Phil ignored it and started talking about himself instead. Seeing this, Jim then approached Phil and whispered something to the man. After that, Phil looked so shocked, and the man no longer forced Hannah to marry him. When Hannah asked what Jim had said to Phil so he wouldn't go after her anymore, Jim said that Hannah was pregnant. Long story short, Hannah and Jim attended a party for students and parents initiated by Hannah and her course institution. Because many of the teaching staff were foreign nationals, Hannah then challenged Jim to chat with 3 foreign nationals using English. Jim still seems to have difficulty communicating in English with foreigners, but he has high enough confidence to overcome his limitations. On the other hand, Hannah again had to experience an incident with a broken shoe. She then asked Jim to hold her shoes while she delivered a speech for the invited guests who were present. Hannah and Jim spend the night at the party listening to a romantic song that makes them both get carried away. Jim then picked up Hannah and he looked like he was about to kiss Hannah, but Hannah immediately dodged. Arriving at the apartment, Jim felt guilty for his attitude towards Hannah earlier and discussed the matter with his close friend. Not long after that, Jim received a call from his friend who told him to prepare a job application file in English because they would conduct an interview session to be placed in the United States. Hearing this, Jim rushed to Hannah's house to prepare an English application with her help. When Hannah wrote an English CV for Jim, Kaya suddenly contacted her via video call. Hannah asked Jim to sit in front of her and not make a sound while she took the call. Jim then overheard Kaya tell Hannah that she had changed her mind and wanted Hannah to teach Jim English so he could quickly move to the United States and mend their relationship again. Kaya said that her new boyfriend is open-minded and doesn't mind if she has a relationship with others. Hannah then asked Kaya about how Jim would feel when he found out that she was in a relationship with many men at once. Kaya instead responded by making fun of Hannah and saying that Hannah seemed to be in love with Jim, so she cared about his feelings. Hearing this, Hannah seemed annoyed and immediately hung up the phone. Meanwhile, Jim listened to their entire conversation and then asked Hannah if she really loved him. Jim then said that Hannah shouldn't have loved him. Hannah responded to Jim's question by saying that her feelings might only be temporary due to their recent closeness. After Jim came home, Hannah seemed to cry in frustration for lying to her own feelings. Hannah apparently really loved Jim. The next day, Jim attended a job interview session and he made it through without any major problems. However, at the end of the interview, Jim thought back to Hannah and their moments together. He then decided not to continue the interview session and left immediately.
Doraemon.
On the other hand, Hannah went to the coffee shop where she usually taught Jim at night. One of the coffee shop employees then gave a voice recorder to Hannah. After listening to the voice recording, Hannah finds out that Jim missed a golden opportunity to work in the United States and chose to stay with the person he loves. Not long after, Jim entered the coffee shop and immediately approached Hannah. He sat there, expressing his love for Hannah. Jim finally realized that he was in love with Hannah and decided to stay behind to pursue his love for Hannah. On the other hand, Hannah looked teary because she was overwhelmed with happiness after Jim confessed his feelings and chose to stay by her side. The moral of this film is never give up trying to be better and get all the things we want. But the most important thing is never to underestimate the presence of other people who are always by our side, supporting and believing that we will succeed when trying to achieve our goals. Because with their help, we can complete all our dreams.